Chapter 1. Alexis Carter stood on the edge of the ruined city, staring at the skyline. The air smelled of smoke and dust, the remnants of a once thriving civilization now under the iron fist of the Zalarian dominion. The human race, once the rulers of Earth, had been reduced to mere shadows of their former selves. Only resistance groups like hers, the Phoenix Collective, kept the fire of hope alive. "Alexis," Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. He stood behind her, holding a tablet, the glow of its screen illuminating his face. "It's time. The intel checks out." She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing as she approached him. "You sure about this?" she asked, her voice steady but edged with caution. "If this mission fails, it's over. No second chances." Liam nodded, his face betraying little emotion. "It's our best shot. The weapon is real. And it's the key. We've waited long enough." Alexis looked around at the others, Zara, the team strategist, pacing back and forth, analyzing every movement, Sam, the medic, adjusting his gear, always calm under pressure, and Ben, the tech expert, fidgeting with a piece of equipment. They were all ready. But Alexis couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She had spent years planning this moment. The Zalarian Empire had taken everything, Earth, people, culture, and it felt as if they were on the edge of extinction. Yet, in the ashes of defeat, there was a whisper of resistance. Alexis had become its beating heart. Her hands clenched into fists as she turned back to the crumbling skyline. This was humanity's last chance. "All right," she said finally, voice firm. "We've been planning for this day. We fought through endless odds, and now we finally have a shot at freedom." Liam stepped closer, glancing at the map on his tablet. "According to the intel, the weapon is hidden deep in Zalarian territory. Their capital. We've found the entrance, but it's not going to be easy to get in." "How easy is it to get out once we have the weapon?" Alexis asked, her eyes fixed on the tablet. Liam hesitated. "Not easy at all. The security is tighter than anything we've faced before. We'll be outnumbered, and the entire city will be on alert the moment we strike." Zara spoke up, her voice calm and measured. "We know the risks. But we don't have a choice. If this works, we can turn the tide. It's humanity's last hope." Alexis met her gaze. Zara's words were blunt, but true. The weapon wasn't just a weapon, it was a catalyst. A force that could awaken powers within humanity, something the Zalarian Empire could never foresee. If they could reach it, activate it, Earth would no longer be a slave. Her mind ran through the plan one last time. It had taken months to infiltrate Zalarian communications, to decrypt their codes, to gather intel from the underground resistance. Every step had been calculated, every move meticulously planned. And still, she felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down on her. What if they didn't make it out? What if the weapon wasn't enough? She pushed those thoughts away. There was no turning back now. "Everyone knows their role," she said, her voice sharp. "Liam, you're on hacking duty. We need access to their control systems. Zara, you and Ben will handle any defense we encounter. Sam, you're our lifeline. Get us out if things go south." Ben, who had been silent until now, looked up from his equipment, his eyes dark with determination. "Once we're in, I'll disable their security grid. That'll buy us time, but we'll need to move fast. They'll know we're coming." Sam nodded, checking his medical pack. "You get the weapon, we get out. No one gets left behind." Alexis turned and looked at the small group before her, each one of them carrying the weight of this mission on their shoulders. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who's been silenced by the Zalarian Empire. We don't fail." As they packed up their equipment, Alexis's thoughts drifted to the world beyond this battle, the world she was determined to restore. Earth, before the Zalarians came, was a place of untold potential, a planet brimming with life, with a future. A future now dominated by an alien race that saw them as inferior. Her thoughts hardened. No more. The group moved out, slipping into the shadows of the city, their footsteps muffled against the cracked pavement. The streets, once bustling with life, were now empty and desolate, save for the occasional Zalarian patrol. They moved quickly, avoiding detection as they neared the city's outer edge. Alexis felt the weight of every step they took. This wasn't just a mission. This was the moment they would either reclaim their freedom or be crushed under the Zalarian boot. Her heart raced, but her mind remained clear. The Phoenix Collective was ready. She was ready. They reached the perimeter of the Zalarian-controlled zone just as the sun dipped below the horizon. Alexis signaled for them to halt, scanning the area for any signs of movement. There was nothing but the oppressive silence that had settled over the city. Liam crouched next to her, bringing up a map of the area on his tablet. The entrance is close. We'll have to disable the outer perimeter first. Once we're in, we'll be in the belly of the beast. Let's do it, Alexis said, her voice low but commanding. The team moved with precision, their movements synchronized. It was a well-rehearsed dance of survival, and Alexis was proud of them. Each one had their own reasons for fighting, their own motivations, but they had come together for a single cause, to reclaim Earth from the invaders. As they reached the entrance to the Zalarian compound, Alexis paused, looking at the looming structure. The walls were smooth and impenetrable, a symbol of the alien dominance that had enslaved their world. But it was also a symbol of something else, their resolve. She turned to her team. "This is it," she said. "The moment we've all been waiting for. Let's take it." With that, the Phoenix Collective vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint hum of a world that was about to change forever. In this opening chapter, Alexis's determination to lead her team through the most dangerous mission of their lives sets the stage for the action to come. The stakes are high, and the emotional weight of the task ahead is felt by each member of the Phoenix Collective. They move forward, not just to take back Earth, but to ignite a spark that will change everything. Chapter 2. The night cloaked the Phoenix Collective like a blanket, offering both cover and concealment. The city, under Zalarian rule, was eerily quiet as they crept through its deserted streets. Their destination was ahead, the heart of the Zalarian compound, a fortress that would likely be the most dangerous place they had ever set foot in. But the weapon they sought was buried there, and it was humanity's last hope. Alexis moved at the front, her every step calculated, eyes darting from side to side. The city had become a ghost town, with the last remnants of human life scattered or hidden in the ruins. The Zalarian Empire had no use for Earth cities. They had turned them into prisons, their alien architecture overshadowing the once vibrant world of humans. "Stay close, stay quiet," Alexis muttered under her breath, her voice barely a whisper. "We can't afford any mistakes." The others nodded, their expressions grim but resolute. Zara, ever the strategist, kept her eyes on the street ahead, analyzing every angle. Ben, the team's tech expert, adjusted his equipment, the small click of buttons and whirs of machinery the only sounds breaking the oppressive silence. Sam followed closely behind, his medical kit strapped tightly to his side, always ready for anything. Liam, a man who could hack into any system with just a thought, walked alongside Alexis. His fingers occasionally danced over his tablet, checking the map they had carefully crafted from stolen Zalarian data. "Almost there," he said, his tone low but steady. "Once we disable their outer defenses, we'll have a small window to get in." Alexis glanced at him, her mind racing. The first part of their plan was simple: get inside the compound without alerting the guards. Once in, they would move quickly to the weapons chamber. But that simplicity was tempered by the ever-present risk of detection. The Zalarian forces were ruthless, and any sign of resistance would trigger a swift retaliation. They arrived at the outer walls of the compound, the massive steel gates looming ahead. The walls were high, impenetrable to anyone who wasn't prepared. Alexis halted and looked around, taking in the darkened, fortified surroundings. There were no guards in sight, but that didn't mean it was safe. "We make our move now," she said, crouching beside the compound's entrance. "Liam, you've got the access codes?" Liam gave a quick nod. "Already patched into their grid. Just need to disable their perimeter lock, and we're in." He typed quickly on his tablet, his fingers moving with precision. A few moments later, a faint electronic click echoed in the silence. The gates slowly began to retract, metal sliding against metal with a heavy groan. Alexis raised her hand, signaling for the team to move. They slipped through the opening, each member blending into the shadows like whispers in the night. Inside the compound, the air felt different, colder, heavier. The Zalarian fortress was a place of sterile, lifeless efficiency. Everything was designed for dominance, from the towering walls to the surveillance systems embedded in every corner. Alexis knew they had to be quick. Time was not on their side. Liam, Zara, Ben, stay alert, Alexis ordered as they crept through the compound hallways, their footsteps muffled against the cold floor. One wrong move, and we're dead. Ben's voice was barely a murmur as he adjusted the pack on his back. I've got the security system mapped. We're in, but I'll need to work fast. If we trip any alarms, they'll know exactly where we are. Don't get distracted, Alexis said, her gaze scanning the area ahead. We're not just here to break in, we're here to get out alive. Sam's quiet voice broke the tension. Everyone okay? You need any medical checks? We're good, Sam, Alexis replied, though her nerves were starting to fray. Her fingers drummed lightly against her sidearm. The adrenaline was beginning to build, but she kept it in check. Keep your focus. They rounded a corner and came to an elevator shaft. The elevator system would take them deeper into the compound, closer to the heart of the Zalarian facility where the weapon was kept. But the shaft was heavily guarded. Zalarian drones hovered near the ceiling, scanning the area below with their eerily bright lights. We need to get to the control room to override the drones, Liam muttered, his voice tight with urgency. Just a few more corridors, and I can disable them. Zara stepped forward, her eyes scanning the environment. No time. We need to move fast. The moment we hesitate, we'll be surrounded. Let me handle it. With precision, she moved toward the nearest corner, pulling out a small EMP device from her belt. She clicked it into place and set the timer. A soft beep signaled the countdown. In a moment, the drones would be temporarily disabled. We're moving in 5, Zara said. When the drones go down, we make a break for it. They waited in silence, crouched low, watching the faint blinking lights of the drones overhead. Every second felt like an eternity. Alexis's heartbeat thudded in her chest. The moment the EMP went off, their window of opportunity would be small, and if they didn't move fast enough, the Zalarian forces would have them cornered. 4, 3, 2. The EMP device whined as it went off. The drones faltered, their lights flickering before they powered down completely. Now, Alexis hissed. Without another word, they sprinted toward the elevator. Ben hacked into the controls as they moved, overriding the security protocols in place. A soft ping sounded as the doors slid open. They rushed inside, and the doors closed behind them with a muted thud. The control panel lit up, and Ben's fingers danced over the keys. Next stop, weapons chamber, he said with a grin. Alexis's breath was shallow, but she forced herself to relax. Keep us steady, Ben. We're almost there. The elevator plunged downward, and with every passing floor, the tension built. They were deep inside Zalarian territory now, farther than any human had ever ventured since the beginning of the occupation. Every movement, every decision, was crucial. One slip-up, and they would all be dead. The elevator came to a halt, the metal doors opening with a hiss. They stepped out into the heart of the compound. Alexis motioned for everyone to spread out. This is it. The weapon is just ahead. No mistakes. And then, as they crept through the final corridor, a faint sound echoed from around the corner, a low hum that grew louder, more urgent. The alarms. They'd been triggered. Move now, Alexis ordered, but she could already hear the heavy footsteps of Zalarian soldiers approaching. The compound was no longer just a place to infiltrate. It had become a battleground. With every second counting down, the Phoenix Collective would have to move faster than ever before, because there was no turning back now. Chapter 3. The alarms blared, their shrill sound echoing down the narrow hallways of the Zalarian compound. Alexis's heart pounded in her chest, the adrenaline surged sharp and immediate. The Phoenix Collective had entered the heart of enemy territory, and now there was no turning back. Move! Alexis barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. We have to reach the weapons chamber, now! They sprinted through the hallway, the distant thud of Zalarian boots growing louder with every passing second. Ben was in the lead, his eyes locked on the flashing display on his tablet. I've got the map, he called over his shoulder, his voice a mix of determination and anxiety. The weapons chamber is just ahead. But we're going to have to move fast before their security grid reactivates. Zara, moving with a quiet intensity, checked her gun before looking at Alexis. "We won't get another chance like this. If we don't make it to the weapon before they lock it down, we're finished." "I know," Alexis replied, her jaw tight. She could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on her, each step closer to their goal amplifying the danger. Their one shot at freeing humanity lay ahead, and everything depended on them reaching the weapon first. As they rounded a corner, the doors to the weapons chamber slid open in front of them with a mechanical hiss. The room inside was vast, its walls lined with shimmering Zalarian tech that pulsed with an eerie light. But at the center of it all, standing on a raised platform, was the weapon. It gleamed with an otherworldly glow, imposing and almost beautiful in its alien design. "There it is," Sam whispered, his voice awed. "That's the weapon." Alexis nodded. The sight of it sent a shiver down her spine. The weapon was unlike anything humans had ever created, sleek, powerful, and capable of untold destruction. But it wasn't just a weapon. The more they had learned about it, the more it seemed like a key, an unspoken bridge to something far more dangerous. "Ben, get to the controls," Alexis ordered, snapping her attention back to the task at hand. "We need to activate it. Now." Ben rushed forward, tapping quickly on the holographic interface embedded in the platform. The room hummed to life as the weapon began to power up. The air crackled with energy as the machine whirred, coming to life in front of them. But something wasn't right. "It's not working," Ben muttered, his brow furrowing as he hit a few more keys. "The system's locked. I need more access." Alexis's gaze flicked to the closed door behind them. "How long?" "A few minutes," Ben said, not looking up. "But I can't guarantee that they won't be here before then." "Then we need to buy you time," Zara said, her eyes scanning the shadows. "We'll hold them off." As the team prepared to defend their position, Alexis's thoughts raced. The weapon was there, almost within their grasp, but there was something about it that didn't sit right. Her instincts were telling her that the weapon was more than just a tool for warfare. It was something far more powerful, far more unpredictable. "We're running out of time," Alexis muttered under her breath. She looked over at Sam, whose calm expression gave her a small sense of reassurance. "Sam, stay with Ben. Help him if you can." Without waiting for a reply, Alexis turned to Zara. "Let's set up a perimeter. We don't let anyone through." "Understood." Zara gave a quick nod, and they both moved to the far side of the chamber, their eyes alert, scanning every corner, every shadow. The sound of footsteps echoed louder, now unmistakable. The Zalarians were coming. "They'll be here any second," Alexis said, her voice steady despite the anxiety gnawing at her. "Stay sharp." The minutes stretched long as they waited. The weapon hummed and pulsed, its energy growing stronger by the second. Alexis couldn't shake the feeling that it was somehow alive, its glow almost sentient, as if it were aware of their presence. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that it worked, that it could unlock the dormant power inside humanity. If they could control it, they could change everything. "Got it!" Ben's voice broke through the tension, and Alexis turned just in time to see the interface flicker with life. "The system's open. I'm triggering the activation now." The room hummed louder, the energy surrounding them almost suffocating. Alexis watched as the weapon began to glow brighter, its form shifting slightly as if it were coming to life. The very air around them seemed to crackle with an electric charge. "We're done," Ben said, stepping back from the controls. "It's active." Before Alexis could respond, the doors to the chamber burst open. Zalarian soldiers poured in, weapons raised. The leader, a tall, imposing figure with glowing blue eyes, stepped forward, his gaze locked on Alexis. "So, you've found our weapon," he said, his voice cold and commanding. "But you'll never control it." Alexis's pulse quickened, but she stood tall. "We'll see about that." The Zalarian leader's eyes narrowed. "You humans are so predictable. You think this weapon is your salvation, but you have no idea what it truly is. It was never meant to be controlled by your kind." "What are you talking about?" Alexis demanded. "It's humanity's only chance." The Zalarian leader smiled, a cruel, twisted expression. "You think it's a weapon? No. It's a key. And once it's activated, it will unlock something far more powerful than you can imagine. something you cannot contain. The words struck Alexis like a physical blow. What do you mean? The Zalarian stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. Once the key is turned, it will unlock the true potential of the human race, yes. But at what cost? Your bodies will be transformed, your minds shattered. You will become the tool of the Zalarian Dominion, an army of your own making. You will be no different than the creatures you seek to overthrow. Alexis's heart raced as the weight of his words sank in. The weapon wasn't a simple tool for freedom, it was a double-edged sword, capable of both empowering and destroying them. She had known there would be consequences, but this was worse than she had imagined. The Zalarian leader stepped back, his smile widening. You activated it, but now you must face the consequences. Alexis felt a chill run down her spine as the weapon's energy surged, more intense than before. The room trembled, and the glow grew brighter, pulsing violently. They had triggered something far beyond their control. It was too late to stop it now. In this chapter, Alexis and her team come face to face with the terrifying reality of the weapon they sought to use. What seemed like humanity's ultimate salvation now appeared to be a Pandora's box, filled with unforeseen dangers. The Zalarian leader's chilling revelation leaves them with a daunting choice: continue with their mission or face the consequences of unleashing a power they cannot control. The stakes have never been high. Chapter 4. The weapon hummed with unnatural energy, its glow pulsating brighter with each passing second. Alexis's pulse quickened as the Zalarian soldiers advanced, their weapons raised and aimed at her team. The air was thick with tension, the weight of their mission pressing down on her. She could feel the shift in the room, the realization that the weapon was no longer just a tool to be used, it was a force that could change everything. But not all change was welcome. Stop! The Zalarian leader's voice cut through the chaos, cold and commanding. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Alexis refused to lower her gaze. Her mind raced, but her body remained calm. The Zalarian leader was right about one thing. They were in a situation they couldn't control. The weapon, their salvation, had been activated, and now it was far beyond their grasp. What are you really trying to do? Alexis demanded, her voice steady despite the danger surrounding them. This weapon is humanity's last hope, not yours. The Zalarian leader sneered. Hope? You still don't understand, do you? This weapon isn't just a weapon. It's a transformation. You will never fight us. You will become one of us. Alexis felt the weight of his words. She could sense the weapon's power growing stronger, as if it were answering the call to awaken. The hum became louder, the air crackling with electricity. The room seemed to vibrate under the pressure. Alexis turned to her team, desperation flashing across her face. We have to stop this, she said quietly. If we don't, humanity will become the very thing we're fighting against. Zara stepped forward, her face set with determination. Then we fight. We fight for every person who will suffer if this goes on. We fight for Earth. Zara's right, Ben said, his eyes flickering between Alexis and the weapon. We can't just leave it like this. But we need a plan. The Zalarian soldiers shifted, closing in. The leader raised his hand, and the others stopped. He studied Alexis, almost curiously, as though waiting for her to make the next move. You think you can stop this? He asked, amusement twisting his lips. You've already activated it. Now you're too late. I don't think we can stop it, Alexis said, her voice sharp. But we can control it, before it controls us. She turned to Ben, her eyes never leaving the weapon. How much time do we have before the weapon completes its activation? Ben didn't look away from the device, his fingers dancing over his tablet. It's moving faster than I anticipated. We have maybe 5 minutes, maybe less. 5 minutes. Alexis's thoughts raced. 5 minutes wasn't enough time to fight off the Zalarian forces and stop the weapon from transforming humanity into something else entirely. But she had no other choice. They had to fight, even if the odds were against them. I'll keep them occupied, Zara said, her voice low. You need to figure out how to shut it down. We can't let them win. No, Alexis snapped. We all stay together. We'll hold them off until we figure this out. We're not leaving anyone behind. The Zalarian leader chuckled darkly. You think you can stand against us? You are nothing. You'll be a part of the Dominion soon enough, and your futile resistance will end. Alexis's hands clenched into fists. The Zalarian leader had underestimated them, as many had before. Humanity wasn't about to give up, not now, not after everything they had fought for. Ben, Alexis said, her voice calm but urgent, do you have access to the weapon's core controls? Ben looked up, his face strained. It's complicated. There are fail-safes built into the system, designed to prevent anyone from tampering with it once it's activated. Can you bypass them? Alexis pressed. Ben's fingers hovered over the tablet. I can try. But it'll take all my focus. I'll buy you time, Zara said, taking a step forward. Her eyes met Alexis's with a sharp intensity. You have 5 minutes. I'll hold them off. Don't be reckless, Alexis warned, but it was already too late. Zara moved swiftly, positioning herself at the entrance of the chamber. Go! Zara called over her shoulder. I'm not letting them get to you. You have a job to do. Alexis nodded, turning back to Ben. We're with you. The team quickly set to work. Sam moved to stand guard, his eyes scanning the room, every muscle tense. Alexis watched him for a moment, feeling a sense of gratitude for the team around her. They had all come this far, risking everything. They weren't about to let it end in failure. Ben typed rapidly, his brow furrowed in concentration. The weapon continued to hum, its energy swirling around them like a storm. The Zalarian soldiers, sensing their opportunity, began to close in. Ben, we don't have much time, Alexis said, her voice strained. I'm working as fast as I can, Ben replied, his fingers flying over the tablet screen. But these fail-safes are complicated. I need access to the core processor, but it's encrypted with a Zalarian code. I'll need a few more seconds. Seconds. Alexis could feel the weight of each one ticking away, and the threat from the Zalarian soldiers loomed closer. She turned to Zara, who was taking cover behind a pillar, firing her weapon at the advancing soldiers. Her movements were precise, her every shot calculated. But Alexis knew that if they didn't stop the weapon, all of this would be for nothing. Ben's voice broke through her thoughts. Got it. I've bypassed the encryption. Now what? Alexis asked urgently. I'm about to shut it down, Ben said, his eyes narrowing. It's going to take all of its energy to do it. I need you to cover me while I initiate the sequence. Done, Alexis replied, her voice full of resolve. Just make it work. She grabbed her weapon and moved into position, her eyes never leaving the Zalarian soldiers who were now moving toward Ben. With a quick signal to Sam, they opened fire, forcing the enemy to retreat momentarily. Every shot was precise, every movement fluid. Ben now! Alexis shouted. Ben's fingers flew over the screen once more, and the weapon gave a low, guttural sound. Its glow flickered, dimming for a moment before it surged back to life, brighter than ever. The air around them thickened as if the weapon were fighting against their attempts to stop it. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, the room went silent. The weapon's hum died down, and the energy seemed to dissipate. The oppressive weight that had hung in the air lifted. We did it, Ben breathed, looking up at Alexis. The weapon is deactivated. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the sounds of the Zalarian soldiers closing in once more. They had won, but the fight was far from over. Zara turned to Alexis, a weary smile crossing her face. Not bad for a bunch of underdogs. Alexis allowed herself a brief smile before turning her attention back to the threat ahead. Let's finish this. The Phoenix Collective had just started to rise. The battle for Earth was far from over. Chapter 5. The Zalarian soldiers retreated, momentarily stunned by the sudden shutdown of their weapon. The air in the room, thick with tension just moments before, now felt unnervingly empty. Alexis stood at the center, her breath heavy, her senses heightened. They had done it. The weapon, no longer a threat, had been neutralized. But victory was fleeting. The Zalarian Dominion still held the rest of Earth in its iron grip. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. We can't let up, Alexis muttered, looking over at her team. Zara, Ben, Sam, and Liam, exhausted but still standing. Their faces were a mix of relief and determination. It was clear that they all understood the weight of their next steps. Zara was the first to speak. "We've stopped the weapon, but the Zalarian forces will regroup. We'll have to fight our way out of here, and we won't have the element of surprise for much longer." "I'll get the extraction route," Ben said, tapping his tablet. His fingers moved quickly, swiping across the screen, his face tight with concentration. "I'm in. But the Zalarian command center is just a few floors up, and the reinforcements are already on their way. If we don't move fast, we'll be boxed in." Alexis nodded. "Then we move now. Liam, take point. Keep your eyes open." Liam, ever the strategist, didn't hesitate. "Got it. Stay sharp." He motioned for the team to follow, leading them toward the door. As they moved out, the narrow hallways of the Zalarian compound seemed to close in around them. The sleek, alien architecture, so cold, so precise, was like a constant reminder that they didn't belong here. The walls were lined with security cameras and weapons caches, each step a risk, each corner a potential threat. But this was the path they had chosen, and there was no turning back. "Are we sure this is the right route?" Sam asked quietly, glancing over his shoulder. He kept checking his med kit, as if to reassure himself that they were ready for anything. "We're cutting it close." "We don't have a choice," Alexis replied, her voice calm but urgent. "The extraction route is the fastest way out. If we don't take it, we'll be trapped here." They reached the elevator shaft where the group had descended earlier. Ben quickly accessed the control panel, his fingers flying over the interface. "Elevator's down, but I've unlocked the secondary access tunnel. It'll take us straight to the surface. Keep moving." With no time to waste, they made their way through the dark, narrow corridor that led to the tunnel. The walls were slick with condensation, and the air was thick with the scent of machinery and metal. The further they went, the quieter it became. The faint hum of Zalarian tech was replaced with the sound of their own footsteps echoing in the narrow passage. They had almost reached the end when the door behind them slammed open, and a flood of Zalarian soldiers poured in, their glowing eyes reflecting the harsh lights of the tunnel. "They've found us!" Liam shouted, drawing his weapon and firing at the advancing soldiers. The blaster shots rang out, lighting up the dim passage. But there were too many for them to fight alone. "Fall back," Alexis ordered. "Get to the extraction point. Now." Zara and Liam continued to lay down fire, but it was clear they were outnumbered. Alexis knew they had no choice but to push forward. The tunnel was their only way out. "Ben! Sam!" she shouted, her voice urgent. "Move!" Ben and Sam didn't need any further instructions. Sam was already pulling out his medical gear, making sure the team was ready for anything, while Ben sprinted ahead, his hands working quickly to override the next door. The Zalarian soldiers were closing in. Alexis felt a surge of panic but forced it down. Her mind remained clear, focused on their goal. "Zara, fall back." Zara glanced over her shoulder, a fire in her eyes. "I'm not leaving you behind. You don't have a choice." Alexis snapped, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We fight our way out of here together, or we don't fight at all. Get to the extraction point." "That's an order." For a moment, Zara hesitated, but then, with a final glance, she turned and sprinted toward the exit. The others followed, pushing forward as quickly as they could. Alexis, always the leader, held her position, eyes fixed on the door as she covered their retreat. Finally, with a loud hiss, the door opened, and the team was through. They emerged into the cold night air, the stars above a stark contrast to the sterile artificial world they had just left behind. The Zalarian compound was now a smoldering ruin, the weapon's power finally neutralized. But the battle was far from over. The war against the Zalarian dominion had only just begun. As they ran through the alley, their footsteps echoing in the silence, the sound of enemy reinforcements grew louder. Alexis didn't dare look back. She had seen the look in her team's eyes. They were all in this together. There was no turning back now. "Ben, get the signal out. We need extraction, now," Alexis ordered. Ben's fingers flew over his tablet, his brow furrowed. "I'm sending the coordinates. ETA, 5 minutes." The sound of distant Zalarian engines revving up could be heard in the distance, the first sign of their reinforcements arriving. Alexis glanced over at Zara, who was keeping pace with her, and Sam, who was already scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. Everyone was on edge, every moment precious. Their survival depended on the timing, and it was crucial that they didn't slip up now. 5 minutes. It felt like an eternity. Hold steady. Alexis barked as they neared the open field where their extraction point lay. The low rumble of Zalarian vehicles was drawing closer, and every second that passed seemed to stretch out longer than the last. Then, as if on cue, a soft whoosh echoed across the night. The hovercraft appeared, cutting through the darkness like a sleek, silver arrow. The extraction team had arrived. "Move!" Alexis shouted, her voice carrying over the roar of the engines. "Get in!" One by one, they climbed aboard, their bodies shaking with exhaustion and relief. As the craft lifted off the ground, Alexis felt a surge of triumph. The battle wasn't over. But tonight, humanity had made its first stand against the Zalarian Dominion. And they had won. As the craft soared into the sky, Alexis looked out at the world below, knowing that they had just begun the fight for Earth's freedom. Humanity was unstoppable, and they would keep fighting, no matter the cost. In this final chapter, the Phoenix Collective manages to escape the Zalarian compound, victorious but far from safe. They've achieved their goal, deactivating the weapon and striking a blow against their oppressors. But the war is far from over, and their journey is just beginning. The fight for Earth's future will be long and hard, but for the first time, they have hope.